It's important to remember that there's always new things to learn. There's always things to be surprised by. When you think you could never be surprised by anything more surprising than the last thing you were surprised by, there's always something around the corner. Okay, so we're going to talk today about Jewish law. Wow, okay, so before all of you roll your eyes in boredom, there's a reason why we're going to talk about this today. It's actually that in the last week, really in the last couple of weeks, I've had a number of conversations with individuals just like yourselves in this community. We're looking at you, virtual audience, you're part of this too. I've had a number of conversations with people in this community about Jewish law. This is actually something that all of you care a lot about. At least some of you, maybe even most of you, and you and I have this in common. I care about Jewish law a lot too. So let's back up a couple of steps. We're going to start from the beginning here. Jewish law is called halakha, which is from the root word, from the shoresh halach. Sometimes this shoresh is rendered yalach, hey lamed chaf, or yud lamed chaf. This shoresh means to walk or to go. So halakha is like the way, the path. It's how to walk a Jewish life. It's not really, in essence, about law. We end up calling it law because it gets very specific. It defines a right way and a wrong way to do things. So I got into a conversation last week about Jewish law on the one hand and Jewish culture on the other hand. Very interesting conversation. We were talking about interfaith family. As many of you know, I'm part of an interfaith family, so I have many personal thoughts and feelings on this. And we were talking about how someone who isn't technically Jewish, who isn't considered Jewish in the eyes of Jewish law, can basically be totally Jewish in the eyes of Jewish culture. They can know Hebrew, they can observe holidays, they can help their child study for their bar mitzvah or their bat mitzvah. So there's this idea and there's this reality that there can be differences between Jewish culture and Jewish law. Now here in our Adat Shalom community, we're part of the Masorti movement, part of the conservative movement. And what this means for us is we're definitely not Orthodox. We have women leading prayers and counting towards a minyan, but we still live by Jewish law. We refrain from eating cheeseburgers because the Torah says so. And if or when we eat cheeseburgers, chas v'shalom, heaven forbid, we have this idea that we're doing something wrong because we have this idea that there's a right and a wrong way to live a Jewish life. And I know this because I have had conversations with many of you about kashrut. I know that you care about the right way and the wrong way to do things. This doesn't mean you necessarily love each and every one of the rules of kashrut. This doesn't mean that you're thrilled with me when I explain the rules of kashrut as my teachers have taught them to me. But what it does mean is that you care. I know that you care. I can tell that you care. And this shared understanding, this shared caring about doing things the right way, this brings us into deeper relationship with our tradition, and it brings us into deeper relationship with one another. Furthermore, I know that we have this shared level of caring about the right and the wrong way to do things and to live a Jewish life because I have received really an impressive number of questions from you all about how to observe Tisha B'Av. So let's back up and talk about Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. And the Shabbat immediately before Tisha B'Av, which is today, is called Shabbat Chazon. We read Parashat Devarim, the first parsha in the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, the last book of the Torah. And we read the third and final Haftarah of admonition. It starts with the word Chazon, which is why this is called Shabbat Chazon. Tisha B'Av literally translates to the 9th of Av, the 9th day of the month of Av, and it's the day on which we commemorate the destruction of our holy temple in ancient Jerusalem. Now, over the centuries, of course, many bad things have happened to us as a people, but at least emotionally, this is really the worst. Maybe even by other metrics, this is really the worst. God gave us the land of Israel. God took us out of slavery and into Israel, helped us to defeat the tribes that battled us on the way, as we read in this week's parashah. And we dwelt there, and we built our holy temple as God instructed us. We did this thousands of years ago. We were wandering in search of our home, and we finally came home. The holy temple, the Beit HaMikdash, was our spiritual home. It was the place where we connected with God. And on Tisha B'Av, we were defeated, we were exiled, we were kicked out, not just from our homeland, but also from our connection with God. Many bad things have happened to our people since then. But still, to this day on our religious calendar, this is our worst day ever. Jewish law tells us what specific actions we should take to mark this day, to observe this day. So let's talk about what those actions are. The first category of actions are things we should avoid, that is, prohibitions, and this fulfills the commandment of initem et nafshotechem, meaning afflict your physical self, make yourself physically uncomfortable. More commonly, this is known as fasting. Like Yom Kippur, this is a full day fast lasting more than 24 hours, beginning at sunset tonight and ending after dark tomorrow. This year, our fast will start at 7:53 p.m. today and Sunday night at 8:25 p.m. And here are the prohibitions that define what it means to fast. No eating or drinking. This does include water and snacks. No sexual relations. We refrain from physical intimacy. No bathing, but we do wash our hands after using the restroom. Important to remember. No applying oils, lotions, or cosmetics. And no wearing leather shoes because they're comfortable. These are the same prohibitions that also apply to the Yom Kippur fast. Then there are other restrictions, other prohibitions that are unique to Tisha B'Av. It is prohibited to study Torah. The exceptions are Megillat Eicha, the Book of Lamentations, in Iyov, the Book of Job. These are stories of tragedy. It's also prohibited to greet one another. We can't say hi. And most importantly, we can't say shalom. We can't say hello in Hebrew. Because shalom means hello, goodbye and peace, as we know, but its root word is shalem, which means wholeness. And we can't speak of wholeness on such a broken day. And if you have never been to shul and been prohibited from greeting others, it truly is a profound experience. So now let's speak about this year specifically, because there are some unique features to where Tisha B'Av falls on the calendar this year. So today, Shabbat is the 8th of Av. Tisha B'Av begins Motzei Shabbos, that is immediately after Shabbat. And this has raised the question, I've heard it from you from the community, what happens if Tisha B'Av falls exactly on Shabbat? The answer is observance of Tisha B'Av is postponed one day until Sunday, making it pretty much the same as the situation we have this year, when Tisha B'Av is the day immediately after Shabbat. Now, if you really get into the weeds, there might be some small differences depending on your interpretation of the details, but for our discussion today, it's basically the same. So when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat and is postponed one day, or when Tisha B'Av falls immediately after Shabbat as it does this year, there is one significant adjustment to the regularly scheduled program. I've talked to several of you about this already. The difference is with Havdalah. Many of us here in our community have experienced this ritual of Havdalah. We've either done it together here in shul or we do it at our homes with our families. It's a short ritual, very meaningful. We do it every week at the end of Shabbat on Saturday night. And Havdalah meaning separation. This ritual marks separation between Shabbat and the rest of the week. In a normal week, many of us know this, Havdalah includes 3 key components. You've got your wine or your grape juice, your spices, that is something that smells good, often cinnamon sticks or cloves, and a Havdalah candle, a candle with multiple wicks. This year, when our Tisha B'Av fast begins before Havdalah, we can't include all of these components in our Saturday night Havdalah. We can't include wine or grape juice because we're prohibited from eating and drinking. And we also can't include spices because they're nice. It's kind of like leather shoes. It's not in line with afflicting ourselves to smell a nice smell. So when we say Havdalah tonight in our service here at our sanctuary or in our home, we don't make the blessing over wine or grape juice. We don't make the blessing over spices. We only make the blessing over the flame of the Havdalah candle. Now, even more interestingly, we do make the Havdalah blessings over the wine only when the fast ends tomorrow. And only at that time do we make our blessing Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'Chol, this blessing that separates Shabbat from the normal days of the week. This blessing that separates our Shabbat and the normal days of the week, we might take it for granted, but it really affirms that everything is right with the world, that things are as they should be. And we can't say that on Tisha B'Av when things are so broken. So now I'm going to invite us all to take a step back from these details, from being in the weeds. And I'm just going to point out, it's been profound for me to receive these questions from the community, to have these conversations with so many of you, to see from the emails that I receive and the conversations that I have, we all do really care about Jewish law, kind of in the same way. Now, as we all know, there is a lot going on in the world. It might not make much sense to us to take a perspective broader than just the headlines of the week, but as we're here together on this Shabbat, this Erev Tisha B'Av, I invite us to consider Maybe there is something in life more important than the headlines of the week. Maybe there is something in life more important than the conversations on our social media feeds. Maybe there is something that these conversations about Jewish law and about Jewish culture can give us, something that meets in us a deep-seated need. We live in a world that contains profound evil and profound goodness. We have to care about doing things right, about not doing things wrong. We must fight evil, even if we can never fully defeat it. We must never give up on goodness. And in this, we must cleave to one another, to our family, to our friends, and to our community, to our like-minded people. Our togetherness gives us the strength and the courage to live in this world, to live in God's world, and to never give up. Shabbat Shalom.